Hi guys, today we're going to learn about kites. I'm going to go over the properties with you guys. Hopefully this time the screen captures everything. I'm going to try to keep everything centered, that way it doesn't cut any part of it. So for our kites, the first property says that disjoint adjacent sides are congruent. So please remember that when we were learning about angles, we learned the word adjacent. The word adjacent means next to. So the two sides that are next to each other are going to be congruent. So if I look at my kite, this side is going to be equal to this side, and this side is going to be equal to this side, right next to each other. Then our second property says that the diagonals are perpendicular. That means that we're forming a 90-degree angle. Remember that the diagonals are right here in the center. So where they cross, we are forming 90-degree angles. Our rule number 3 says that only one pair of opposite angles are congruent. That means that this entire angle is going to be equal to this entire angle. They're going to be equal to each other. Now, just because they're equal to each other, and if you guys look at the diagonal right here, the small diagonal is cutting the angles. Because they're equal, the top part is going to be equal to the top part. The bottom part is going to be equal to the bottom part. Rule number 4 says the longer diagonal bisects the shorter diagonal. Remember, the word bisect means we're going to cut into equal parts. So the longer diagonal, this right here, the longer diagonal is going to cut the smaller diagonal in two equal parts. That means this here is going to be equal to this here. Then rule number 5 says the longer diagonal is going to cut or bisect the angles it connects. So remember, bisecting means we're going to cut into equal parts. So we're going to have this angle, and that angle is going to be cut into equal parts. Then we're going to have this top angle, and that top angle is going to be cut into equal parts as well. Those are our properties. Now let's go over some examples. For example number 1, you're looking for many different angle measures. So we're going to take a look at our kite, and the very first one that we can find is the X, because if you guys look at it, our property says that every time that two diagonals cross, we're going to be forming a 90-degree angle. So the easiest one to solve for is X. It's going to be a 90-degree angle right there. Then the next thing we can do is we can look at our properties that say that we have one pair of opposite angles that is going to be congruent. So I know that those have to be congruent. Remember that this left side has to be equal to this left side. So U has to be 35. Then we look at the right side, and on the right side of the angle we have 65, which has to be the same as letter Z. The next one we can use is our property that says that the longer diagonal, so the longer diagonal is going to cut the opposite angles into equal parts. So this has to be equal to this. So if the top angle is 25, y has to be 25. The last thing that we need to find is w. For this one, we're going to have to go back to our triangles, and remember that every time that we have a triangle, all three angles inside a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees every single time. So what I can do is, I already know that x is 90, so that makes this angle right here 90 as well. So I can do 180 minus 90 minus 35, and that's going to give you the angle for W. So that's going to be a total of 55. So W is going to be 55. Our rules say that the longer diagonal, this one right here, the longer diagonal is cutting the angles into equal parts. So if W is 55, that means that T has to be 55 as well. Okay, so that's example number 1. Let's move on to example number 2 and 3. On this one, we're going to be solving for x. So I'm going to look at what they're giving me. They're giving me the two bottom sides of a kite. They're telling me that one of the sides is 2 plus 7x. They're telling me the other side is 8 plus 4x. Because it's a kite, I know that those two sides have to be equal to each other. So to solve for x, we're going to do 2 plus 7x equals 8 plus 4x. And we're going to solve for x. We're going to move the 4x, so we're going to do minus 4x minus 4x. So that's going to leave you guys with 8 on this side. We're going to have 3x here plus 2. Then we subtract 2 from both sides. And the last thing that we do is we divide by 3. So x equals 2. Let's look at example number 3 now. For example number 3, they're telling you that this piece of the diagonal is negative 2x plus 15. The other piece of this diagonal is negative 3 plus 4x. Because AC is the smallest diagonal, I know that it's being cut in 2 equal parts. So they're equal to each other. So to solve for x, we're going to put negative 2x plus 15 equals negative 3 plus 4x. And we're going to solve for x. We're going to move the negative 3, no, we're going to move the negative 2x, so I'm going to do plus 2x. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So plus 2x, cancel that out. We're left with 15 equals negative 3 plus 6x. Now we need to get rid of the 3, so we do plus 3 on both sides. So we have 18 equals 6x. Last thing we do is divide by 6. So x equals 3. If you guys have any questions, please ask me. If not, you guys can go ahead and start on your assignment.